Hello, hello. Latest shipment of Signums? Signi? What is Latin? Signi, I guess? Signums 3.0 and 3.1 will be in today, or should be in today. I'll get them tested and then send out emails to everyone on the waiting list. So if you wanted a 3.0 or a 3.1, should be set either today or tomorrow. Cool. Let's see. Kind of a strangely productive weekend, I guess. I don't know. It was like a high energy weekend or something. Did a whole bunch of stuff that I've been meaning to do but not really feeling for a long time. I am disinclined to force myself to do stuff because things go much more smoothly when I'm kind of ready to do them, but it's not always on my schedule. So like the garage was bothering me and the kids were playing outside and I'm like, I'm bored, kind of. I need to do something with my hands. Like, oh, look at this. This needs to be fixed. Like, let me put this back up. Grab a nail, set something up, grab a piece of wood, cut it in half, put it up. There, that works. Like, didn't I want to make like a pool noodle car stop thing? Like, I could probably make that with this right now. I made like 3 things, or made and fixed like 3 things. And then at the end of it, I was ready to go inside, and I'm like, this garage is really just a mess. Let's start sweeping. I think that's how it started. I had some sawdust, and I grabbed the broom to sweep it out, and I'm like, I'll sweep here. I'm like, well, that's kind of a mess too, and I'll sweep here. Like, the more I noticed the mess, the more I needed to clean it. So I spent like an hour cleaning out the garage, and now it looks amazing. And every time I walk out there, I'm like, whoa. It's also cool because the kids can play in it now. Because there's like, everything's moved around, so there's enough space for them to do circles with their scooters. Pretty cool. Then I had like some work I was putting off, and I wanted to be upstairs for it. I was like, like, how much can I do? Like, no, that's right. I was messing around with the emacsclient, which is super weird. I don't understand why it exists at all. I know to like set it up as a server and detach your clients, but it just like, why wouldn't you want it to be remote? Anyways, from another computer, you can SSH into the computer that's running Emacs, and then run an Emacsclient, and then basically get all the same memory and frame access and buffer access that you have on the actual computer. So I was testing out with the Pocket Chip. So I've got, the little Pocket Chip screen set up at the dinner table, propped up with a pencil, and I plug my keyboard straight into it, and I'm just going. And I definitely like and prefer large screen real estate, but like I'll make do when there isn't any. That's one of the big deals about like Vim and Emacs, those older text editors. The amount of space, if you use bookmarks or if you use your markings correctly, you can bounce around the file all you want. Like, you don't need to have that gigantic view where you have to scan everything. You just kind of remember where different parts are and label them, and then jump to your labels. You can navigate the file a lot more easily than just like scrolling with the mouse scroll wheel. Anyways, I was on that tiny screen, and I'm like, well, I was gonna do that. Let me try that right now. So I wound up working up a feature for the application. and it modified a whole bunch of files and tweaked a whole bunch of things. And since I was in that Emacs already, I'm like, I'm still on that tiny screen. I'm still on an SSH session running an Emacs client, and I'm just like connecting to kicking off the Emacs MySQL connection, checking database values, copying them straight out of there and putting them into the code that I'm writing, checking all my Git diffs and stuff. And I'm like, this is actually working kind of well. So it was like, if the work starts and the work is flowing, by all means keep going. So that worked out well, I guess. It's kind of strangely, but I'm not going to complain. So this morning I knew that I had some little bits to catch up on. So I was able to do that pretty well. And again, same Emacs session, you know, same stuff, same testing things I already set up. What was... Oh, yeah. So I made I'm working on some code at work for just managing some data a little bit better, feeding it into Emacs and getting out my my output so that it's easier to create it, or to, you know, generate the output so I don't have to generate it manually. Emacs just makes a paste buffer, or a clipboard, populates my clipboard, and then I just paste it in and it's all formatted and everything. So I'm doing that, and I'm creating these data structures, and it's just like, I was getting a little bit of parentheses fatigue, which is something I never understood, but I'm starting to understand. But you're like making these, what is it called? The doublet or singlet, or those quarks? I forget what it's called. It's called a dot list, or dot notation, or something like that. I'm making these like pairs, and separated by a dot, and then parentheses, and then greater parentheses with more pairs, and then greater parentheses with more pairs. And I'm like, man, I just wish I could, I forget what I was looking up. I was looking up something else, and it brought me to a Common Lisp page, which is technically a different language, but still a Lisp, obviously. And it was talking about keywords. And for keywords, you just put in like keyword value, no commas, no parentheses, no dots, just keyword value, keyword value. And I was like, oh man, that would clean things up a lot. Because if I'm moving stuff around, it's easy to kind of get confused. If you don't do the formatting correctly, it's easy to get confused and miss a parentheses, or throw something off. So anytime you get fewer or less, less syntax, it's usually for the better. So in Common Lisp, those are called keywords. You create a keyword symbol, which is prefaced by a colon, I think. And eLisp has symbols, which is just fine. But there wasn't a symbol value. So I was like, man, it would be really useful if Common Lisp had, or if eLisp had something like that. And I was like, wait a minute, like I could do that in like 3 lines of code, I think. So I tried it, and it took 4 lines of code. But you just doing a recursive match across symbols. Just grab the first one, see if it matches, and then recursively skip one, you know, could do or 2Ds, skip one, and then pass the rest of that list to itself recursively. And that was it. Like, oh, I'm done. And I wound up tweeting it. And I was like, you know, this probably already exists, but this is a good exercise anyways. Just because, you know, I said before, cons, car, and cdr, like, that's all you need. You can get so far with just that. It's amazing. So someone, and I had responded to that tweet saying, I'm pretty sure this already exists somewhere in some set of data that I don't know about, but this is just a good exercise anyways. And sure enough, someone responded and said that it was a property list, so a P list. and you can get it, or get the output of a plist by doing a plist get. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I don't need the extra code. And at the same time, I'm like, plist get is a lot less memorable than keyword. Like, it literally costs me 3 lines of code and a small bit of memory space. Like, I'll keep keywords. Then I'll pull keyword, and the notation was reversed too. So it's like, again, Lisp is that language that becomes good, or Lisp is the language that you write. Oh, that's not gonna be good. That's bad. Sorry, Lisp is the language that you use to write the language that you want to use. Like, I would like a language that does this. Like, okay, well, with Lisp homoiconicity and macros, do it. Just write your own code. Write your own language. They have these little address yard sign things. That guy has rocks. I don't know. They're doing a leaf pickup. They have like this leaf vacuum thing that goes along the edge of the sidewalk. So you sweep your leaves, you rake your leaves to the edge of the sidewalk, and then that is weird. And then I guess they have like a vacuum that comes along and sucks up all the leaves. But these houses have these address markers, like they're really low to the ground here, and they're basically covered in leaves. So I imagine the vacuum just like clang. This other house had rocks in front of it, but it's not quite a fire hydrant that you're going to see very easily. Anywho, you've been downloading stuff off YouTube, right? Should do that. It's probably the last warning I'm going to give, because I don't know when it's going to happen. I would like very much for YouTube to continue existing in its current state. Well, actually, maybe it's 2011 state, maybe around there. But it's just not in the cards. And there's a lot of people saying like, oh, well, you know, I'm excited to see what the free market comes up with once YouTube is out of the way. You understand that YouTube isn't technically a free market solution. Like, it's not really a profit-driven company. I toyed with the idea of the U.S. government like buying YouTube as just like the Library of Alexandria. There's so much. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff, I'm sure, but there's so much good stuff on there. There's so much education that's just right there for anyone to reach out and grab onto. I learned so many things off of just YouTube, just random dudes being like, hey, here's how you do this. Watch out for this. Make sure you do that. All done. Like, ta-da. This is information that used to be not necessarily hidden, but it was professional information. Like just woodworking information. You were, your father's a woodworker. I guess. Woodsman? No, that's not the right word. Woodcrafter? Carpenter. Right. Yes, there's a word for that. Your father's a carpenter, and you're a kid, and he raises you and teaches you the tricks and shows you all the pitfalls and says, okay, there you go, you're a carpenter. And you're like, cool, I can carpent stuff. And then you go on YouTube and it's like, hey, 10 million people are carpenters. Have fun. Or you need to learn something that's just a small amount of information about something so you can carpent a little bit. This is all useful. This is all great. And it saves you a lot of money. And knowing that something like that is going to go away is just, it makes me sad. Because there's probably going to be a pretty significant gap after the time YouTube becomes useless, or between the time that YouTube becomes either gone or useless and the time that something even comparable to YouTube in its infancy comes out. Like, until bandwidth is just free. Well, not even bandwidth. It's just so much. So download your YouTube videos. Oh, yes, and of course, this very pertinent and important information that I'm saving all the way to the end. Follow me on BitChute. 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 I think I've created a channel in there. My website, this is all secret information I save all the way to the end. This should have been in the front. TroyFletcher.net. Because YouTube is the primary way that people find me and reach me. So if there's another location, well, there will be another location, but the other location will be somewhere else. Who knows? Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that these separate platforms begin to disappear and things might go back to being less monolithic, or, 5 monoliths.